In tonight's action field program, I train the evil twin, good evil twin, and that one. I find a peculiar substance in the engine, throw some plastic, and have an argument with a metal bar.
Like, why is this even an option to...
Welcome back to the second part of Project Cologne. It's time for this E46 to receive much needed love. There is a lot to do and all of these parts need to find their way onto the car, so let's get this show on the road. We are starting off with a cold start. You can't hear it that well, but the engine started working poorly and misfiring. On top of that, you can hear a lifter ticking. The car hasn't been driven properly since January when the tooth inspection expired, so we're just moved around with a lot of short running of the engine, which is not good for it.
Alright, so first thing that we're going to do on this car is change the oil. That's because it has 10W40 inside and it's over 20,000 kilometers since the last oil change, so I just want to quickly swap that out, put 5W40 in it, see how it runs then, and hopefully the lifter tick will go away. In temporarily. I almost forgot how oily all of this is. Nice. That oil is really black. Let's just put a plug.
As mentioned in the previous part, this project is supported by Liqui Moly and it will be getting a full treatment with their great products.
Filter. And now to pre-lube the oil filter. And now you just dump it in.
But before starting it again, I want to replace spark plugs. Since it's misfiring, that's my first item on the list.
Oh, nasty filter. So when removing this cover, be sure not to use these rubber spacers or absorbers because they're quite pricey from BMW. Here are the ignition coils. These are from 2008. So first let's unplug them. Oh yeah, this valve cover is leaking pretty badly as well. I think I'm gonna label them. So now I'm gonna blow out all of these holes with a compressor because there's a lot of crap inside that I don't want to land in the engine. You can also use a vacuum cleaner. Spark plug numero uno. Oh, that's really bad. These are original BMW NGK spark plugs. These are really bad. Really gummed up. Oh my God. Could these be the original spark plugs? It could very well be, but no way. Yep, same thing. No wonder this thing was working so poorly. Ah, every time.
These are the worst spark plugs I've seen in a while. Oil fouled and an indication that the engine is burning oil. We'll address that in a minute. For now, new spark plugs go in.
So because my spark plug socket is too strong, and usually always stays with the spark plug down there when I pull it out. So I'm just using a normal socket and some tape to hold the spark plug. I learned this trick from Ed China actually. I think he did it in one of the Wheeler Dealer episodes. Pretty neat. And that was the last one. So I was planning to replace ignition coils as well, but given the condition of the spark plugs, I'm not going to, because I don't think they're the issue. So I went for a little test drive and it's sounding much better now. The lifter ticking is gone. That's really nice. The engine is pulling nice and strongly. No misfires, so very nice. I think I'll get away with not replacing ignition coils. They are quite expensive, so if they're working fine, I'm not going to replace them. Sounds much better.
A very common issue on M54 that causes it to burn oil, besides potentially bad piston rings, is faulty crankcase ventilation. So we're going to start this assembly for the CCV replacement, which means all of this needs to come off, and I'm going to do it the quicker or the easier way, without removing the intake manifold. It came back to me. What a boomerang. Now the snorkel can come off. Hoo-hoo. Is there a date? 2007? Wow, crazy. Talk about neglected BMWs. Bonus cap. Yo, the power steering lines are leaking properly. Math. So these intake boots are known for cracking and developing vacuum leaks. As I'm about to show you, this one is also on its way out. This all looks original, like it was never replaced, which I really like. I like working on cars that were never touched. So this here is a very common spot for cracks. And here as well. So this boot needs to be replaced. Now I can remove the diesel valve. And that's the diesel valve. These are common to go bad as well. So not too bad, but not ideal either. So I think I'll need to rebuild this at some point as well. This I'm going to replace. The lower intake boot. So now you need to be a gymnast to reach that. Yep, that happened. This one is better than the upper one, but I'll replace it anyways. Now we should remove the dipshit. The dipstick, I mean. Nope, stay. Swing it out of the way for now. That's disconnected. So now I can remove the idle control valve. Should be able to just pull it out. That's the idle control valve. You should be able to hear it clicking or clacking, but this is completely stuck. So that's another thing that's broken. I'm gonna clean it later, but for now here's some WD-40. Spray some brake cleaner in it. Yep, it's unstuck now. That is another common issue on this engine. If there's one thing that I really like about this car so far, it's everything is original and untouched. I want to say none of this was ever touched, so I really like that. I much prefer working on original neglected stuff than something like Project Dubai, for example, where someone who doesn't know what they were doing were working on the car and just creates a huge mess, and then there's nothing worse than fixing someone else's mess. That's the stupid vacuum line. Ow! That's the purge valve removed. So now I'm going to cut the CCV line that goes down to the dipstick, because I'm gonna replace it anyways, so why not cut it? Yes, destruction in progress. Sweet Lord, that's already full of mayo. Snappity snap. There's ketchup, there's mayo, there's mustard. A lot of things in this tube. Out comes the dipshit. So this is the CCV line. Brilliant. At least it hit the ground. So let's see if I can retrieve my socket. 10mm nut. Well, good luck finding that. Next is the throttle body. Let's unplug that, whatever that is. Ooh, alternator, let's unplug that. So many connectors. Where does that one go? That's too far. That comes the throttle body. Here's how everything looks. That over there is the CCV valve that needs to come out. There's a hose coming from above. There's another hose here. And there's one that goes to the old dipstick that I already cut off. This is the old dipstick hose. As you can see, I can stretch it really hard and it's gonna break. So now I'm gonna cut off this line. Yep, that's disconnected. Let's do some more cutting. Or just break it.
You know, whatever works. You bastard. That's most of the crap removed. Now this line goes there. That's removed as well. So this is what's left of the CCV system. That was dumb. Went all over my face, but basically it's very brittle. Nice, huh? Yummy. Good stuff.
For now, I'm going with a stock CCV system, and if it ends up slurping a lot of oil, I'll be doing the O2 pilot mode later.
So ready to plop in the new parts. Gonna install this hose first and then try to snake it underneath the intake manifold. How does that go in? So I'm pushing it through the wrong thing. Oh, did it go in? It did. Yes. So now I can put that one in. By the way, I'm using silicone on all of these connections so they slide in easier. Like that. I want to hear a nice solid click. Positive click. So I just wanted to clean this return line on the old dipstick, and it's completely clogged. So that could be part of the problem. The oil wasn't returning, so all of these lines and the CCV valve, all that was full of oil and gunk because it wasn't returning to the oil pan. So the CCV was definitely not working as it should. So it finally let go, and look what kind of crap came out. Took a lot of effort. A lot of brake cleaner, chemicals, compressed air, and that was the big chunk that flew out. This right here would explain why the car was burning oil, because the oil had nowhere to go, it couldn't return to the pan. So this is actually really good news. So now let's check how is the oil flowing through the line. So you can see it's going through the line just fine now. Oh, I can't believe this was completely clogged. The question is, how long was it like this? Because this was really bad for the engine. So now I'm going to screw back the CCV valve, and I'm using tape to hold the screw. I'm going to clean the throttle body. Whatever you do, do not touch this flap. This is electronic throttle body, and there's gears, electronics, and visor inside. So you're likely going to break it if you start messing with this. So I'm just going to blow throttle body cleaner through it. Wow, this stuff works really well. Look how clean that is now. Throttle body cleaner again, and just spray inside of this thing. Yeah, it should be clicking like that. Now I need to dig out the oil. Dipshit O-ring. That's the oil ring. That's in all the way. These are the new lower and upper intake boots. Now we're going to check for vacuum leaks using a smoke machine. So I need to disconnect brake booster hose. There's the smoke. There are no vacuum leaks, which is great. Stop pumping.
Now onto the replacement of power steering reservoir, hoses, and oil filter housing gasket, which is not leaking, but it's a cheap and easy assurance to do it.
So since we're going to be messing with the alternator, removing wires, first thing we're going to do is disconnect the battery. There it is. Set it on plastic, and that's it. I'm going to withdraw power steering fluid first and remove the reservoir. That is very dark. It should be nice and pink. So that's due for changing as well. Now I'm gonna go underneath the car and disconnect that power steering line, so whatever is left on the very bottom of the reservoir, it drains. And you can see that it still has the original factory clamp, which means it was likely never replaced. And yeah. And that's the reservoir removed. And I didn't spill anything. And this one is a quick disconnect.
Which means it won't be as plastic clip always breaks.
Let go! I guess destroyed is the next thing to do. This is a great design, BMW. So I think it's time to break out the Dremel tool. This is also great. You can start a fire very easily. Kids, don't do this. This is when a quick disconnect hose turns into not so much quick disconnect hose. And nice. It only took me, I don't know, 16 days. All right, so now I can remove the electric fan, which is a million times better and easier than the stupid fan clutch. Put that on the side. And now we have a couple of Ninja Star screws. But look how easy that was. That was literally 5 seconds. While you have to beat the stupid fan clutch off. Next, we're gonna remove the belts. It's very easy. It's the other belt removed. So AC pulley, shot, 2 pulleys here. Really shot. The one above, shot as well. AC compressor bearing is good. Alternator, it's fine as well. That's the pulley off. Now I can unhook alternator. This, and then there's the positive cable on the back. Out she come. So now I'm thinking I should have done the water pump and the radiator at the same time. So I just decided I'm gonna replace the water pump, thermostat, expansion tank, radiator now as well. So I have more space here to work with, and that needs to be done anyway. So now we're gonna move on to the draining the coolant, I guess, and removing all of these lines. So I like to remove this clip entirely. Excellent. And now we need to remove the expansion tank. Get ready for more coolant. Just a coolant level sensor. Wiggle it like a bugger. And that's how you do that. Brute force. And look how much space for activities we have now. Next step I'm going to do is remove the cap. Whatever oil is inside the housing drains into the pan. So I'm gonna do the Vanos line, 19. So now we can start undoing the old filter housing bolts. Just like that. Oh my, it would appear that someone was already in here. You can see sealant. Damn it. So that's why this wasn't leaking, because they use sealant. So let's first clean that over there. If anything, at least it's easy to get off. So that's the old gasket. And there's absolutely no need to use sealant here. So this here is a brand new Vanos oil line. This is the new gasket. Now we need to slowly place it in there. That's nicely seated in there. And put it all back together. That's it. There's 2 dowel pins that you need to align. Done. So I think what we're gonna do now is remove the radiator. Does that sound good? Sure. Now I need to remove the lower hose. So that's that removed. Easy peasy. Oh, that's good. Are you empty? So you can see how busted this radiator was. Now we're going to remove the thermostat and the water pump, since I have space. This bracket needs to be loosened. Very nice, that came off easily. And no sealant, thank God. Very clean inside, which is really good news. Bit of cleaning before I pull the water pump. That hurts my hand. There's blood. 2001, so this is the original pump. And to be honest, it's still perfect. People like to use the metal impeller ones, but this compound or whatever it is, it's actually a lot better. It doesn't rust, and it's easier to balance as well. So
In case you don't want to spill blood while removing the pump, you can thread 2 bolts through the holes on the side of the pump and slowly back it out of the engine. This was just quicker, and it's not a project car if it doesn't have your DNA on it.
So that's the old pile of junk, and this is the new stuff. SKF water pump, really good quality, and I really like that this is blue. And Mahle or Bear OEM thermostat. You don't even need to clean this because the O-ring seal is here, but I like to. So I'm using silicone grease to lube up the O-ring. See? Slides in nice and easy. Torque for these is 10 millimeters, and I like to go by hand simply because these are really weak studs, and if you go really strong, it's really easy to snap these studs, and then you're in a world of pain. So I like to go by hand and just make sure they're snug, because these really don't need to be that tight, because the O-ring is doing all of the sealing. Perfect. People also like to use sandpaper here. I do not.
My mic battery died here, but for the thermostat I also went by hand. Just nice and snug.
Unboxing time. This is OEM Bear or Mahle radiator. Now I'm gonna mount this. So this radiator is ready to go back in. And now I'm going to replace these pulleys. Here are the new pulleys. Now the alternator can go back. It's the lower bolt in. Nice and snug. And then the connector.
New belts go in.
Nice. And that's the AC belt on as well. Do you know what's the time for now? Blueberry muffin. New expansion tank. Coolant level sensor.
New hoses, cap, and temperature sensor.
Silicone grease so that the O-ring slides easier. Connector for the sensor. And that's the cooling system done.
New power steering hoses and reservoir.
That's it. Easy as that. New filter. Nice.
Fresh coolant and power steering fluid.
Ignition on, fan lowest setting, and temperature highest. That's it. Now we can start adding coolant.
I am also adding Liqui Moly's fuel system cleaner.
Now I'm just looking to make sure there are no coolant leaks or oil leaks. Then I'm gonna let it warm up and take it for a spin. And then tomorrow morning we're going to do a compression test on this engine. Well, now I think it's burning less oil, or not at all. We'll see once I drive it. But I am curious to see the overall health of this engine, so that's why I'm gonna perform the compression. Whatever the results are, I'm still going to flush this engine with Liqui Moly engine flush. That stuff is really good to clean all of the crud and sludge in the engine, and then do another oil change after that. What we're going to do today is compression testing, just to see the overall health of this engine.
Per BMW repair manual, minimum compression for this engine is 10 bars, but before anything else, we're looking for consistency here. I removed the DME relay and fuel pump fuse. The engine is fully warmed up, spark plugs are removed, and now I'm going to crank the engine for 6 times with go fast pedal fully depressed.
210, that's really strong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have a healthy engine, ladies and gents. That's really good.
We have 210 to 220 psi across all cylinders, which is really good.
Vanos time. Now I'm going to remove the valve cover and the Vanos unit to overhaul it. Now the O2 sensor connectors. That's all of the bolts removed. I think this valve cover is ready to come out. Yep. Already loose. Oh, right. Hoo-hoo. Someone didn't change oil regularly. Wow, look at that sludge. Let me bring you in. So, have a look at this. This is probably one of the dirtiest M54 engines that I opened. And I had 12 of these. And look at that. That massive sludge right over there. That's insane. On the bright side, the camshafts look pretty good. So this is what you get when you don't change your oil regularly. There's so much crud in there. I have never seen anything like this in my entire life and had like 30 BMWs. So let me grab vacuum cleaner. It's actually clogging the vacuum cleaner. Here's how it looks now. I cleared all of the large chunks of the sludge, for example, those there. Yep. What I'm going to do now is put the wall cover back and run engine flush.
The reason I want to do flush now is to clean out the sludge that's circulating in the oil pathways before I overhaul the Vanos unit. I wasn't expecting visual improvements because no bottle of anything will make the engine look like new after years of varnish and oil being caked on.
Cheers, my friend. Now I'm gonna let it idle for 12 minutes.
One thing I did notice during this procedure is that the engine started to work smoother as it progressed and was shaking less in the end.
Time to drain the oil. So what we ideally want to see in that filter is a lot of sludge. So it did a very good job at filtering crap out of oil. Ooh, ooh, that's hot.
I then added oil, started it, and removed the valve cover again.
Hello. It looks about the same as before. A tiny bit better, actually. I didn't expect miracle with it, just, I don't know, nice gentle cleaning is what we are looking for here. Because also what you don't want to is that all of this sludge, for example, just comes loose all of a sudden. That'll be a lot of sludge floating in the engine and it can clog narrow passages and cause damage to the engine. So what you're actually looking for is gentle cleaning. I think it did a really good job there, and you can see that this stuff just wants to come off now. So I think with few more oil changes and another one of those flushes, it'll look much better. But yeah, you can actually see that it cleaned all of these passages here where the oil is flowing constantly. It actually cleaned all of the sludge from there. So I think I'm pretty happy with the results. So let's remove the Vanos.
I would like to say that if your engine is clean, had regular oil changes and you have no issues, there is no need to flush it. Few shorter oil changes would be better in that case.
Various connectors. It's one, Savai. So now we need to remove the Vanos cylinder bolts, which are clogged. So first we need to unclog them. Oil will come out of this Vanos cylinder. So now we need to remove the caps. All right. Then we have left-hand thread bolts. So these are Ninja Star T30. Gently, yes. Now we're going to start unbolting the Vanos unit. Ooh, there's a lot of oil. Off to the drain pan. So here's the Vanos unit on the table. Now we're going to remove these covers and remove the pistons to replace the seals and rattle bearings inside.
Short interruption of the program. I have t-shirts for sale. This one and... turn around. No. Do it or no more broken BMWs. Fine. Good, evil twin. And that one. We also have mugs. You mean a mug. Whatever. It helps with the running costs of the channel, so I would appreciate you checking them out. Link is in the description or just click on the picture below. Now, where were we? Ah yes, the Vanos. Vanos. Sounds like a good name for a child. We're done here.
Normally this should be nice and clean, but these are all just sludged up. That's how it should look like. So this is intake side, exhaust side. Come on, airplane, are you gone? Intake, exhaust. Wow, feel how loose all of that is. This seal is shot. So that's the intake side removed. Oh yeah, that's nice and smooth. Very good. So this one has a spring inside. Yep. There's like a million degrees in this garage. So now we're going to mount it on the car and check for axial play. So side to side play like this, that's fine and normal. But we are looking for axial play. So when I hold the shaft in the back and I rock like this, see that excessive play? That's the cause of the rattle and what we want to fix. So now we're gonna put this soft white thingy. There it is. Piston is unharmed. The cap, the washer. That goes there. There, and then there's the bearing. And that's the bearing that we're going to replace. That goes on the bottom. New bearing ring. These usually you can reuse, but they were really cheap, so I bought replacement ones. We're replacing these tres. Okay, so the washer goes back in, then the new bearing. Then these rolling bearings. Then this thick washer. Again, rolling bearings. And then the thin washer. And now the cap. And back to the vise. Okay, so set the impact to the lowest setting. 1, 2, 3. That's about it. Spinning nicely. So side to side play is still there. When I try to rock it, nada, no play. Nice, I'm happy with that.
I copy pasted the same on the other one.
So now we come to the main repair, the replacement of seals. This is what affects the performance of the car and what will make it sluggish, perhaps in some cases even throw codes. So we're gonna cut off old seals and install new ones. For this I have a very sharp knife. Good. So let's cut this one. Another piece of plastic coming out. Wow. That's really bad. Just ridiculous. Nice. So now this is the tricky bit. It's in. And that's the O-rings replaced. So now we have these two small caps. Those are the final O-rings. Small caps done as well. So now it's time to clean. So now we need to resize the Teflon rings, oil, and coat. So now we need to leave it for 2 minutes in there. So this one is seated. And this goes. Now the tricky one. My God, it's hot. So the torque for these bolts is 10 Newton meters. That's the Vanos overhaul done. And now I need to clean because this is all a huge mess. Prep the mating surface, remove the old gasket. New gasket. Time to rejoin Vanos and the engine. Nice. So these are brand new bolts. I didn't want to reuse the old ones. You can, but I like to buy new stuff. So torque for these is 8 Newton meters, but they're so easy to snap that I'm just gonna go by hand, and you can feel when the bolt bottoms out. Can't go more. Stop. Now these caps go back in. Okay, now we need to rotate to verify it's fully seated. So brand new Vanos cylinder cover bolts. Done. Plug back the connectors. New valve cover gasket. So the whole gasket in, you can use a bit of silicone grease. You can use sealant as well. Now the rubber grommets. And I'm gonna put some oil over the camshafts, just because. We're going to apply a bit of sealant as per repair manual. So where the Vanos meets the head, here, nice thin coat here, on the half moons, here as well, and on the back of the engine, on the half moons. Now we need to verify that the gasket is seated properly. Very good. Good, 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 good. So for these, I believe the torque is 10 Newton meters, but I've never used the torque wrench here because you simply don't need it. Because all of these nuts, they're all gonna bottom out as soon as you hit the full stop. Stop torquing, that's it. And slowly go in crisscross pattern.
It takes about 200-300 kilometers for the new seals to break in, and you'll typically feel like the car gained more power in lower RPMs.
Well, that was drama-free. Gut gemacht. Good puppy. So now we're going to address the major oil leak that this car has, the oil pan gasket. First, all of this needs to go away. I want to remove engine mount bolts because I'm going to be replacing them. So this is my swivel. Oh, that's nice. Magnet. The nut. So let's remove the reinforcement plate. My cheap impact is struggling. Take out these bolts. Right, that's what happens when you buy the cheapest impact wrench on Amazon. That wasn't even tight. People have been asking me if they should buy an impact wrench, and my answer is no, you shouldn't. So out comes the oily mess. Welcome to more unboxing. This is a support bar. It's blue, so I like that. It's so hot today. I'm about to burst into flames any second now. What screws? There are no fucking screws. Why is this doing this? Oh yeah, brilliant quality. Like, why is this even an option to... Of course, the chain can go through here. For whatever reason, they made it so that it can tilt like this. But then they didn't include the bolts to stop it from tilting. Whatever. So luckily the bolts from the reinforcement plate fit here, so I'm sure there's some logic behind it, but I don't see it at the moment. And the award for the shittiest design ever goes to... Slowly. Yeah, that's not going anywhere. So now I'm gonna unbolt the power steering pump. Woo, it's hot. Draining the oil again. Here comes sway bar link. Now if I only have space where to put it. It's the steering pump. Should be free, yep. Gonna let that hang, I guess. Next, lower control arm bushings. God, I hate this impact wrench. Simple bolt you cannot lose. To be honest, these are not that bad. Tiny bit of crack. Oh, it's cracked. It's a good thing I have new ones coming. So now we need to remove the steering guibo or coupling, whatever it's called. That thing is a cause of a lot of play in the steering wheel. On this car it feels fine, but since I'm going to be removing it anyway, I'm going to replace it. There you go. Next is the engine mount bolts. These guys here. That's free. So now we need to support the subframe. That's good, I think. Oh, it's coming out. Negative on that one. That one came out. So 3 out of 1. Whoa. There you go. All right, so for now that's it. Oh, actually I can remove the engine mounts now. There's 1, and there's 3. The steering coupling was removed, engine mounts on both sides because I'm going to be replacing these. I loosened the bracket for the power steering pump, and then the whole subframe along with the steering rack came down. So since the engine didn't drop on my brain bucket, I guess the engine support bar is doing its job. We're gonna start with the E10 bolts here. So now I'm going to take a piece of cardboard and poke bolts through the holes so I know which one goes where. Ow! Hit my watermelon. Careful, not to hit anything. This is great. It's not looking pretty. There's varnish, sludge all over the place. As you can see, the old pickup has some stuff, luckily on the outside, because it stopped it from swallowing that crap. So I'm gonna remove this tube and try to clean it. The oil pump is fine. I already checked the nut and it's not loose. The oil pan, here's how sludgy it is. There on the bottom, a bit black there. But other than that, I didn't find any 10mm sockets in here, which is good. I don't know why, but I always like to do this. Break it. It's faulty anyway, so I need to replace it. Oh my God. Look. So 3 months later, it looks better. A lot of scrubbing with a plastic scraper, sponge, brush, all-purpose cleaner, oven cleaner, and finally high pressure water. And it looks, well, somewhat better. This stuff is incredibly hard to get off. Like, this is really caked on, so I'm not even gonna waste any more time trying to take that off. That's as far as I'm gonna go. Now I'm gonna slosh some oil around, just because. I don't have to, but you know. Okay, here's the new gasket, and we're going to use zip ties in 2 places because this is metal to hold it in place during installation. So that goes something like that. Sperate. Nope. Like that. Clean oil pickup tube goes back. I just use some brake cleaner, compressed air, and then fresh oil. So now I'm going to use sealant on the parts where the covers meet the block. And here's what that looks like. There, 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 and there. The oil pan. Now ideally you need 16 hands. There goes another one. All right, change of tactics, change hands. That's one in. That's holding now. So now I can cut the zip ties. I'm going to be using thread sealer on the bolts. Pay attention, I didn't say thread locker, thread sealer. In case you like to leak through the bolt, you won't be able to, so yeah. Why did I step into the f***ing sludge? There's sludge everywhere now. It is torque wrench time. The torque for these bolts is 10 newton-meters. And that's the oil pan, gasket, finito. Here we have new engine mounts, oil level sensor, and steering coupling. Done. Connector, before I forget. All right. So now I'm gonna put the guibo in. That's all in. Yep. So let's knock out this control arm bushing first. Plenty of silicone spray. So a few ways of doing this. You can knock them out with a mallet or something. I personally like to use a puller. And there it is. Easy as that. New control arm bushings. First clean it and then apply plenty of silicone grease also on the bushing and basically start pushing. Like that. Ouch. That wasn't part of it. Ignore that. That was just my elbow hitting the tracks. Done. Idling nice and smooth now. So far, no big drips. Time to check for oil leaks. The front is looking good. Before it was leaking like crazy right over there. Pan gasket is good. There's still a lot of residual oil and stuff from brake cleaner when I was cleaning, but so far, so good. What it needs now is a really nice test drive and then need to check for leaks again. The reinforcement plate. The thing about bolts for these is that they are stretch bolts. According to BMW TIS manual, they're torqued to 59 newton meters, then 90 degrees plus 30 degrees. So BMW recommends replacing them every time because they're part of the structure of the car. In case of the accident, you want those bolts to hold or whatever. The thing is, they're not exactly cheap, and I'm not sure if I'm gonna have to be back here anytime soon. So for now, I'm just gonna reuse the old ones. but at one point I am going to replace them because better be safe than sorry. Done. Now we gotta deal with the trifecta lights. Here you can see the code that means that the ABS pump is faulty, and that stupid thing lives in that hole over there. For the millionth time, the airbox needs to come out. Jesus. What would be nice to do is to hook up the new ABS pump and see if we get that internal code. If we don't, then all I need to do is, well, replace it completely, code it to the car and bleed the brakes, and we should be all set. Nice. So the new / used ABS pump is hooked up. All right, that's good. There's no more internal fault errors, so I want to say that's good. Here's what we have going on here. This is the used pump, and below it, it's the old pump, so that needs to come out. And now I'm gonna start unbolting the brake master cylinder. Man, I'm sweating so much. I feel like I would be perfectly suited for Tavares's video. Special flare wrench. This is a really good one from Hazit, because he has these on top, so you really cannot strip these bolts, even if you wanted to. See how easy that was? Oh yes. Come on out. Oh. This is the hole where the ABS pump lives. I'm gonna spray some brake cleaner there, use a vacuum cleaner to vacuum it up and just make it nice and clean. Here's the old ABS pump, the new one. And here it is clean, ready for the new ABS pump. Yes. F3. E46. F4. MK60. Get coded. F3, execute job. Coding active. Coding ended. F3. Chassis. MK60. Shift F4. So now we need to code the steering angle sensor. F1. Clear. F1. Keine Fehler gefunden. That means no errors found. Someone is revving that Skoda like crazy. But that is good. That is fixed. Time to add brake juice. Now we're going to start the car just to make sure there are no lights on the dash. Look at that. Yes.
Lastly was to bleed the brakes while activating the pump. Good.
And here we are. No errors on the dash and the engine is working perfectly.
Finally, here's the price breakdown and how much I spent so far to bring it up to snuff. I could have skipped a lot of stuff, but I have a policy of doing everything at the very beginning, along with preventative maintenance, and have a trouble-free motoring and a car that I can trust to take me anywhere.
Well, I hope you found this enjoyable. That is, if you made it through this long video. I certainly had a great time wrenching on these 3 Series. It's been a while since I had one of them, and I forgot how much I love the E46 platform and the M54 engine. They are very well engineered and DIY friendly with plenty of space in the engine bay, unlike certain V12s that I've been working on. It's unfortunate that this example was mistreated by its previous owners, but it just goes to show how tough these engines are. Despite the regular oil changes, the engine is still strong and healthy, now running smoother than ever. There's still plenty of life left in it. I'm just gonna do what the previous Philistine failed to do and treat it right. And if it blows up, letter S and numbers 5 and 4 keep popping up in my melon. Not sure why. Anyway, a few more loose ends need to be done and then the car is ready for German tooth inspection. That'll be in the next episode. As always, thank you so much for watching and please consider subscribing to the channel if you liked the video. Until next one.